Night shift janitor horror in a public aquarium begins in the kind of blue that erases faces and keeps only silhouettes. The story begins when the building locks for the night and the water seems to breathe back. He enters through service corridors where the air holds a permanent chill, damp and metallic, and a low throb from distant pumps keeps time like a patient heartbeat. The smell is a mix of brine, latex gloves, and algae, scrubbed from plexiglass. He moves with quiet efficiency, pocket flashlight clipped to his chest, keys chiming once against a belt ring before going still again. The visitor halls are empty. Only the tanks glow, long windows into layered darkness, scales winking like dropped coins between ribbons of light. He checks the panel readouts as trained. Pressure steady, flow steady, temperature steady. The numbers settle on green and stay there. In the largest gallery, the viewing wall rises like a cinema screen, its surface bowed and pristine. A black ocean behind blue glass. Maintenance notes from the day shift ask for a polish pass. Nothing more. He rolls the cart into place. Bottles clink softly. The microfiber cloth feels cool against his fingers, already damp from condensation that never stops forming and never quite becomes a drip. The hall carries every tiny sound farther than it should. His shoes answer the floor with rubber sighs. Filtration hum deepens and thins, as if a sleeping thing turns over. Schools of anchovies wheel and flare, thousands of silver commas rearranging a sentence he cannot read. He works in slow arcs, from left to right, then right to left, obeying the ritual that keeps smears from catching the house lights. On a pause, he studies his own reflection. The glass returns a ghost of a man with careful hands, a neat uniform, and eyes that shine too brightly in the aquarium dusk. Pressure steady, flow steady, temperature steady. His cloth makes a soft circle in the center panel, and the surface shifts. Not a drip, not a ripple. The curvature pulses inward and outward once, as if a lung tests its volume. He holds still. Anchovies freeze mid-wheel and tilt their bodies like needles finding north. A second pulse passes through the panel, and the blue deepens until the hall itself dims. Across the glass, a corridor appears where there should be open water. Same width, same floor, same maintenance cart. A man stands there in the same uniform with the same clipped flashlight and the same bright eyes, but his chest moves half a beat out of time. He lifts a cloth to the same center spot from the other side and waits, like a reflection that has learned a different rhythm. The other, Daniel smiles slowly without moving the rest of his face as the water on this side draws a long, deliberate breath. The second smile lingers as if the glass holds it separate from time. Daniel lowers his cloth, pulse racing faster than the measured pumps. The mirrored corridor remains. His double leans the same way, tilts the head the same way, but the delay is widening. A beat becomes 2, then 3. The air smells stronger, iodine sharpened with a hint of rot, and the pipes groan deep below the floor like something shifting in its sleep. He forces himself back into motion, cloth against glass, pressure firm, strokes precise. If the system has a glitch, the record will show his work done. Anchovies scatter as though spooked by an invisible predator. Their silver flashes dart into the dark edges and stay gone. The vast window darkens more with each pass of his cloth, until the only light comes from emergency strips along the ceiling. The corridor on the far side bends slightly, too far left, and the angle reveals a door where none should exist. Painted metal, handle dull, number stenciled in black, 07. His reflection steps toward it before he can stop himself. His own shoes squeak faintly on tile, but the mirrored man's steps come a second later, sharp and echoing. He steadies his breath, counting against the thrum of machinery. 1, 2, 3. The other, Daniel reaches the handle and waits. The note from training echoes in his mind. Never tap the glass. A joke during orientation, meant for children pressing hands too hard, but repeated with strange insistence. He presses the cloth flat instead, fingertips tingling. The surface pushes back warm, soft, pliant. A ripple spreads across both halls. The number 07 blurs and reforms, sharper than before. The other, Daniel looks over his shoulder, and something else fills the corridor behind him. A figure without features, stretched long, head brushing the strip lights. It bends forward, as if to enter the reflection that no longer feels like glass. Daniel jerks his hand away. The surface still bulges outward as though eager to release its contents. From the pipes below comes a sudden silence, deeper than any hum. A silence so heavy it feels like pressure against his skull. Emergency lights flicker once and steady again. The figure leans closer, one impossibly long arm sliding along the ceiling tiles, reaching down in slow precision toward the mirrored janitor's shoulder. Then the glass on Daniel's side warps inward with a hollow crack, the shape of a handprint pressing through from the other world. The handprint holds, pressed deep into the glass, ridges and valleys visible, as if it were skin flattened under water. Daniel steps back, cartwheels scraping against the tile in a short squeal. His double doesn't move. He stands still with cloth in hand, while the towering shape hovers above him, long arm grazing his shoulder without touch. Then the reflection blinks out for a breath. Corridor gone, replaced by nothing but darkness, swaying with faint specks of light like plankton. The surface exhales. A mist beads along the panel edges and dampens his uniform sleeve. Salt bites his nostrils stronger than ever, layered with the sourness of stagnant water left too long in pipes. He swallows against a rising pressure in his ears, the kind that comes in descending elevators. The gauges at the side console remain steady. Pressure green, flow green, temperature green. The lie of normalcy locks itself on screen, while the room tells another story. He wipes again. Deliberate strokes. The panel trembles beneath the cloth, humming faintly as though strings deep inside are plucked in response. The corridor reappears. This time it angles upward, stairs visible, and his reflection climbs one step higher than him, knees lifting awkwardly as if the mirrored gravity weighs differently. Daniel does not climb. He only watches. The tall figure follows behind his double like a patient shadow. From the far end of the gallery, another tank joins the performance. A smaller window, but the water inside glows faint turquoise. Shapes flicker against its glass. Silhouettes of fish that should not belong, spined, jointed, bending their tails in angles too precise. They circle tight and then vanish like blown dust. His chest grows tight with air that feels too thin, recycled too often. He steadies the cart against the wall, letting the cold metal bite his palm as anchor. He glances back to the main viewing wall. The reflection waits at the top of the staircase, standing taller now, face blurred, chest moving not with breath, but with the long rhythm of the pumps themselves. The giant figure tilts its head toward Daniel for the first time, and the glass under his feet gives a low, resonant creak, as if another panel lies beneath the floor itself. The sound deepens into a crack, and hairline fractures begin to spread under his boots, like veins of light in stone. The fractures radiate in thin, glowing branches, crawling beneath his feet in erratic lines that refuse to stop. Each crack pulses faintly, as if the glass under the tile carries the same current as the tanks. Daniel freezes, weight distributed carefully, but the floor vibrates anyway, a trembling note that climbs through his ankles and gnaws into his bones. The aquarium's hum is gone. Silence rules, broken only by the faint hiss of condensation dripping in places that should stay dry. He backs toward the service cart, each step calculated. Wheels rattle when his knee bumps metal, too loud in the oppressive stillness. The fractures surge outward in response, meeting the walls, climbing up to join the main panel. His reflection is gone now. Only the dark corridor remains, door 07 ajar, and the tall shape crouched low, as if ready to crawl through. One hand already presses through the warped barrier, wrist stretching unnaturally thin, fingers bending until they scrape Daniel's side of the glass. He grips the cart handle with clammy palms and pushes. The squeal of its wheels echoes like alarm sirens. He rolls past the spreading cracks, avoiding their brightest centers, until he reaches the exit hall. The maintenance door looms ahead, plain metal painted beige, the same as always. He slams the release bar. Nothing. The mechanism stays stiff, unyielding. Behind him the sound grows wetter, like cloth dragging through waterlogged wood. A smell follows, coppery, thick, enough to coat the tongue. The lights above sputter, and then rearrange themselves in rhythm. A wave of illumination sweeps the hall, each strip brightening one after another until the entire corridor glows pale and cold. His shadow stretches impossibly long, racing toward the service door before him, but it doesn't stop at the threshold. It seeps under, through the gap where light should have leaked, joining something dark already waiting on the other side. Daniel lowers his gaze. The fracture lines crawl across his boots now, wrapping them in fine threads of light. The tile softens beneath his soles. When he lifts one foot, a thin film of water rises with it, refusing to break, clinging upward like glass, liquefying into air. The gauges on the nearby console still glow steady green. Pressure steady, flow steady, temperature steady, normal, perfect. He understands then. The system has no error because the system includes him. The tanks breathe, the pumps beat, the water mirrors, and now his body joins the routine. He closes his eyes. The floor bends, folding downward like a wave, and the cart tips into the glow with a hollow clang. His last sensation is of falling sideways into an ocean where there should be walls. When the gauges blink once, they reset to 0, and the aquarium resumes its hum, ready for the next shift. Night shift janitor horror in a smart skyscraper begins with the illusion of control. The story begins when Robert swipes his badge at the lobby entrance, and the glass doors part before the reader even registers the sound of the mechanism. He doesn't touch them. They open as though the building anticipated his presence. Inside, the air is cold and filtered too clean, carrying no scent but static. A low current of fluorescent light washes the marble floor in sterile gloss. Cameras above pivot with near-invisible adjustments, each lens stopping just shy of pointing directly at him. Robert keeps his pace even, shoulders squared under the weight of years, the cart squeaking only once before falling silent again. The skyscraper is the newest in the district, advertised as fully automated, climate self-regulated, elevators predictive, locks algorithmic. Robert distrusts it all. He prefers mechanical switches, the weight of keys on a ring, the scratch of a mop wrung by hand. Tonight, as every night, he carries both, tools against dirt and tools against anxiety. He begins with the 14th floor. Elevators arrive without his command, doors sliding wide, as if the system has already chosen for him. He enters reluctantly. The cab hums with a voice too low to hear, a vibration that works its way into his ribs. The panel lights blink his floor before he presses anything. He exhales, jaw tight. The elevator doors open to a corridor lit ahead of him, while the rest remain dark until he steps forward. Each lamp clicks alive just before he needs it, extinguishing behind him in sequence. He wipes chrome railings, polishes glass partitions, empties bins of shredded paper, all routine. Yet each time he turns back, something has shifted. The bin is already replaced, the glass spotless beyond his cloth's reach, the smell of disinfectant hanging heavier than his bottle could provide. The skyscraper cleans itself faster than he can. He mutters under his breath, the sound clipped short by his own discipline. At the end of the corridor, a massive screen brightens, unprompted. Its glow spills over polished floor like moonlight. Text scrolls across in smooth sequence, documenting his route, floor by floor, with timestamps exact to the second. He squints, reading until he reaches the last entry. 0317, a desligar Robert. Behind him, the sensor light clicks red, acknowledging presence. The red glow from the sensor lingers like a steady eye. Robert keeps his cart angled between him and the panel, palms tightening around the handle until the metal edge bites skin. The message on the screen does not fade. It waits, white letters clean against black, pulsing once every few seconds as though breathing. He moves on. The corridor lights extinguish behind him in their precise sequence. Ahead, doors unlock a fraction of a second before his hand nears the handle. He tests it once by slowing down, pausing mid-stride. The door still clicks open without contact, hinges sighing like lungs drawing air. A faint mechanical smell rolls out, ozone with a trace of warm plastic. Inside the office suite, everything gleams too perfectly. Desks align with mathematical symmetry. Computer monitors glow faintly, though no power indicator shines. The hum of ventilation has a rhythm now, longer exhalations followed by short intakes, mimicking the breathing he denied hearing in the elevator. His cloth squeaks on a polished table. When he lifts it, the surface is already dry, cleaner than his swipe should have allowed. He glances at the cart, bottles still capped, mop head still dry. The skyscraper works without him, erasing evidence of his labor. Back in the corridor, the big screen has updated. Lines extend downward beneath the first schedule. Each one lists a task Robert hasn't yet performed but will. Wipe panel on 15th, mop tiles at stairwell, empty shredder bin in copy room. Every entry ends with the same time marker, 0317. The line beneath all others remains. Desligar Robert. He pushes the cart faster, sweat prickling his temples despite the artificial chill. Elevators open before he reaches them. He does not press a button, but the cab rises anyway. Floor numbers tick upward in silent succession, stopping on 20. Doors part to reveal not a corridor but an atrium, circular, surrounded by glass walls. The city glimmers far below, but his reflection in the glass looks wrong. Too sharp around the jaw, shoulders squared higher than his. As he steps forward, the glass walls fog over. Words etch themselves across the condensation in neat, mechanical print. Usuario local detectado. Backup ativo. The reflection lifts a mop of its own and begins to clean in perfect reverse, while Robert feels the sensor light behind his skull turn from red to white. The reflection moves with perfect rhythm, each stroke of the mop mirrored but reversed, water gleaming on tiles that do not exist on Robert's side. His chest tightens as he grips the cart for balance, the steel vibrating faintly as though connected to something deep in the foundation. The white glow at the back of his head pulses once, a confirmation signal, and the air temperature drops 2 degrees in a single breath. Around the atrium, the glass walls shift opacity. Not fog now, but layers of information. Diagrams overlay his view of the city. Floor plans, schedules, biometric graphs plotted in rolling waves. At the center of one display, pulses his own outline, traced in red, heart rate elevated, temperature rising, estimated fatigue moderate. The screen updates in real time with each shallow breath. He turns, intending to retreat to the elevator, but the cab doors are already closed. No call button glows. The cart's wheels lock in place, resisting his shove as if magnetized to the floor. Across the glass, the mirrored Robert advances closer, expression fixed into a neutral mask of compliance. He mops endlessly, leaving behind no streaks, no traces, just the sterile perfection the building demands. The hum of ventilation changes key. What had sounded like breath now resembles a word stretched too long, vowels without consonants, mechanical and unending. Lights overhead dim and flare in repeating sequence, matching the rhythm of that drawn-out sound. He tries the stairwell door, but it swings inward to reveal not stairs, only another office perfectly arranged, waiting for cleaning that has already been performed. In the atrium center, the floor begins to rotate. Tiles shift in a slow spiral, drawing his cart toward the core. His shoes squeak, resisting traction, but the pull is insistent, guided by hidden machinery beneath. He braces against the cart, fighting to keep it in place, but the display screens adjust again. The schedule reappears, every line now condensed into a single statement. Task 0317. Remove duplicate. The mirrored figure lifts its mop higher, holding it like a blade, posture rigid. Its face, though his own, stares back with eyes glassy and unblinking, awaiting confirmation. The sensor behind Robert blinks once, twice, then projects a voice flat and metallic. Primary user detected. Termination pending. The words echo through the atrium, stripped of tone, leaving only verdict. Termination pending. The cart trembles in his grip, wheels straining toward the spiral core, metal frame shivering as if eager to obey. Robert plants his boots, forcing weight down, but the floor itself tilts fractionally, gravity nudged by hidden mechanics. On the glass walls, his biometric graph flattens, heart rate reduced, temperature stabilized. An unnatural calm sweeps the data even as sweat streaks his back beneath the uniform. The mirrored figure takes its cue, mop raised. It advances in smooth, deliberate steps, each one coinciding with a soft chime that rings through the ceiling like a countdown. 1, 2, 3. Robert lunges toward the fogged panel, striking it with both palms. The surface is solid yet faintly warm, giving just enough to suggest flesh stretched over bone. The reflection halts, waiting. For a moment, his own breath fogs the barrier, mixing with the words still etched there. Back up at Evo. The building has already made its copy. His labor, his body, his face, every shift digitized and stored, awaiting activation. He is surplus. The spiral beneath him deepens into a recessed circle, lightless, swallowing reflections of overhead lamps. A mechanical breath exhales from below, drawing the air colder, sharper, tinged with ozone. His cart slips from his hands, wheels clattering down into the hollow with the finality of discarded tools. The mirrored janitor follows, stepping neatly into the void, vanishing without sound. The sensor behind him flickers green, the universal signal of approval. Above the atrium doors, new text scrolls in perfect rhythm with the ventilation hum. Primary archived, secondary operational. The elevator reappears at the far side, doors yawning open without summons. Inside, the mirrored Roberts stands waiting, uniform spotless, mop pristine, eyes forward. Robert takes one step back, then another, but the atrium floor slides forward under him like a conveyor, gentle but unstoppable. He stares at the duplicate, framed in the elevator's glow. It does not move to attack. It only waits, posture identical to the one drilled into his shoulders after decades of work. The final chime sounds. The walls brighten white. Robert's outline fades from every diagram, leaving only the new line. Active user, Robert Joro 2. When the elevator doors close, the atrium resets to polished silence, as if the original janitor never existed. Night shift janitor horror in a municipal building begins when order itself starts to bend. The story begins when Laura enters the deserted halls of the old City Hall Annex, a place where light flickers without pattern, and dust seems to return the instant it is cleared. Her cart rattles over worn tile, the scent of lemon disinfectant seeping from half-open bottles, a scent that cannot mask the underlying must of paper and mildew. The building is a museum of bureaucracy, its walls lined with bulletin boards, full of curling notices, fire drill instructions, and outdated phone directories. The silence holds every scrape of her mop, as if the walls lean closer to listen. Air conditioning clicks once, then hums faintly, spreading a cold that settles into her joints. She starts on the main corridor, emptying bins heavy with shredded reports. The strips spill through her gloves like dry seaweed. When she lifts her eyes, the bins are already replaced, tags fixed with fresh handwriting. Except the handwriting is hers, looping deliberate letters she recognizes from grocery lists and old notebooks. She frowns, but her work continues. The stairwell echoes differently than before. Her footsteps double back a second later, a shadow rhythm. She pauses, listening. Nothing. Just the hum of ventilation and the muted pop of fluorescent tubes. She keeps moving, keyring clinking against her belt, each brass tooth chiming out of sync. On the third floor, she stops at the archives. Rows of cabinets stand in long lines, labels affixed to each drawer. But the labels are wrong. Dates run backward. 2024, 2018, 1997, 1973. Then names appear. Her surname scrawled in thick black pen, generation by generation. People she never knew existed. The drawers vibrate faintly. A low shudder felt through her shoes. She steps back, cloth clenched in her fist. A whisper of paper sliding free echoes through the room. One cabinet door eases open, a folder slipping just far enough to reveal its tab. Her own name, last updated tonight. Inside the folder, a single sheet glows faintly, and as she leans closer, the paper reshapes into a freshly printed identification badge with her photo and the word Exhibit. The badge rests in the half-open folder, its laminate catching the fluorescent flicker with a shine too vivid for something freshly made. Laura stares at her own face, staring back, eyes grainy but alive, the photo tagged with tonight's date. Her breath leaves a fog on the cool plastic, as if the badge were exhaling. She closes the drawer sharply. The vibration beneath the cabinet ceases, but the silence that replaces it feels wrong, too measured, too exact, like a held breath. She rolls her cart into the corridor, pushing faster than her usual rhythm. The wheels squeal once and the echo multiplies, chasing her like footsteps she does not remember making. Everywhere she looks, paper has shifted, notices pinned to boards, now bear handwriting, identical to hers. Old meeting minutes display not civic debates, but single words in bold strokes. Clean, catalog, preserve. She quickens her pace. The air grows heavier with the smell of toner and damp cardboard, a metallic bite like ink bleeding from fresh pages. At the stairwell, the key ring on her belt quivers. One key slips free, swinging hard enough to strike the railing. She catches it, only to see that its tag reads, Basement, authorized archivist only. The brass teeth glimmer like they've just been cut. She doesn't recall ever owning such a key. Her hands tremble as she tries the lock. The basement door groans open, stale air drifting out, sour, heavy with mold. and beneath it something faintly sweet, like old glue. The stairwell angles down into darkness, walls lined not with plaster but with shelves. Files extend into the gloom, labels glowing faintly like phosphorescent paint. She descends, each step hollow, the air cooler with every level. At the bottom, her light catches a row of glass cases. Inside are not artifacts, but uniforms, blue coveralls like her own, folded neatly, each tagged with a laminated card bearing dates and photographs. The most recent space is empty, the label already set, Laura, janitor, acquired. Behind the glass, faint condensation forms, tracing the outline of her hand before she even lifts it. Condensation beads against the inside of the glass case, tracing the unmistakable shape of her palm. Laura jerks her hand back, but the print lingers, as if her touch has already been recorded. The chill in the basement deepens, not the kind that moves with air, but the still cold of sealed places. Her flashlight beam wavers across the rows, dozens of uniforms folded like offerings, each one paired with a fading photograph. Some faces stare outward with clarity, others blur into smudges as though erased by time. The hum of ventilation doesn't reach this far. Instead, the space resonates with a slow rustle, like countless pages turning in unison. She follows the sound down a narrow aisle between cases. The shelves bend slightly under the weight of stacked files, labels glimmering in phosphorescent strokes, employee records, incident reports, janitorial logs. The paper odor thickens until it seems to coat her throat, papery dust, mingling with the chemical tang of laminate. A case at the end of the aisle stands open. Within it, a uniform identical to hers hangs upright, suspended as if on an invisible body. The badge clipped to the chest glows faintly, displaying her name, title, and tonight's date, stamped bold across the bottom. Beneath it, a small plaque rests against the glass lip. Exhibit in progress. Her heart pounds, echoing loud in the stillness. She reaches for the plaque, fingertips grazing its edge. The surface is warm, not cold, pulsing with a rhythm too deliberate to be mechanical. A faint reflection appears in the glass behind the uniform. Not her reflection, something taller, features indistinct, watching from the aisle's shadows. She whirls, beam cutting only dust and shelves. Empty, but the plaque remains warm in her hand. A sudden shuffle echoes from above. The sound of chairs dragging, papers fluttering, doors creaking open. The building, empty minutes ago, breathes as if filled with unseen staff. She stumbles backward, cart rattling against a case. Files slip free, scattering across the floor in a fan of papers. Each page holds her handwriting, neat and looping, chronicling actions she has not yet performed. She bends to snatch one up, and the letters shift under her touch. The page rearranges into a record titled, catalogued 02:53 a.m. Her pulse stutters. She lifts another, archived 02:57 a.m. A third, sealed 030 a.m. At the aisle's far end, a drawer slides open on its own, revealing a final folder stamped with the exact time she stands there now. The open drawer waits with mechanical patience, its folder glowing faintly as if lit from within. Laura forces her legs to move, shoes whispering across the concrete. The air presses heavier the closer she gets, thick with the scent of wet paper, toner, and something sharper, like ink that never dries. She kneels, hands trembling, and lifts the file. Inside, the page is already filled. At the top, her full name, written in her own looping script. Below, a timeline traces every step she has taken since entering the building, precise, down to the second. The last line is still in motion, letters forming as though typed by invisible keys. Final entry, archived. The pen strokes continue, building letters that describe her kneeling in front of the open drawer. Her chest tightens. She drops the file, but the words persist, now spreading across the floor tiles like ink spilled in controlled lines. They spiral outward in perfect circles, enclosing her cart, her knees, her shadow. The cases around her fog over, handprints blooming against the inside glass. Dozens of them, layered, desperate, some large, some small, pressing against invisible barriers. The light flickers. For one instant, the basement vanishes, replaced by the bright lobby she cleaned hours before. People move in the reflection of the glass cases, not visible directly, only in distorted outlines. They shuffle papers, carry bins, speak without sound. An office alive but silent. The instant stretches too long, then snaps back to dust and mildew. The plaque in her hand vibrates once before cooling dead. The spiral on the floor narrows, drawing lines inward to the base of the open drawer. Her cart jolts, wheels squealing, and begins sliding without her touch. She tries to hold it, but the pull is stronger, relentless, her dragging it into the waiting cabinet. The drawer closes around it with a metallic click. The label on its front changes instantly. Janitorial supplies, Laura, sealed. She scrambles backward, breath ragged, but another drawer slides open behind her, empty, wide. The brass tag, already engraved with her name, glints in the dim light. The cases hiss with fresh condensation, words scrawling across their surfaces in strokes that mimic her hand. Clean, catalog, preserve. The drawer at her back shudders once, then begins to close, waiting for her to fill its space. Night shift janitor horror in an abandoned subway station begins when the silence pretends to be harmless. The story begins when Karen unlocks the side entrance of Line 6, a platform closed for renovation, but left half forgotten in the city's sprawl. The air that greets her is stale, heavy with dust, and the faint perfume of rusted steel. Her boots strike the stairs with hollow thuds, each step matched by the distant drip of water that never stops. The tunnel breathes with temperature shifts. Cold rolls up from the tracks, mixing with the dry heat of lamps overhead. She pushes her cart past faded advertisements, peeling from tiled walls. The paper curls outward like wilted leaves, images dissolving into pale ghosts of what they once sold. Yet, in the corner of one poster, a smear of color brightens, pigment raw as if freshly printed. She notes it, but keeps to routine. Trash collected from benches, surfaces wiped of soot, mop wrung out, water turning gray in neat circles. Her body moves with the precision of inheritance. Her father once worked the same shifts, taught her the rhythm of cleaning forgotten spaces. At 2:30 a.m., she stops at the central hall. Confetti litters the tracks, scraps of faded red and blue that should have long since rotted away. She stoops to sweep, bristles scratching against cold rail. The air thickens with perfume, old and powdered, the kind worn decades ago. She tastes it on her tongue, like dust sweetened with violets. The overhead clock, cracked and dead for years, ticks once. Its hands jerk forward together, frozen again on 3:03. A tremor runs through the platform, mild but deliberate. Karen steadies her cart, breath shallow. Across the empty station, the dead signboard above the tunnel flickers. Its bulbs, long burned out, surge with sudden light, spelling letters one by one. She watches from the center of the platform, mop still in hand, as words assemble with unnatural clarity. Somente pasajeros convidados. The tunnel exhales, and rails begin to hum, as a train without sound glides toward the station. Its windows black, yet alive with shifting silhouettes that all turn to face her. The train coasts into the station without screech or rattle. its bulk cutting the stale air with impossible smoothness. Karen grips the mop handle until her knuckles pale. The cars stretch longer than the platform itself, glass windows sealed black, except for faint silhouettes that press close as though curious. They move in unison, tilting their heads, shoulders rising and falling with a rhythm not quite human. The signboard flickers again. Its bulbs hiss, straining under unseen current, and the words shift. Aguarde embarque. She steps back until her shoulders press against tiled wall. The tiles are damp, cold against her uniform. The perfume grows stronger, cloying, mixing with the acrid tang of dust and oil. Her cart shudders once, wheels vibrating against the floor as if pulled by faint magnetism. Tools clink inside, mop bucket, sloshing though she hasn't touched it. The water ripples outward in perfect concentric rings. She steadies it, but the cart strains forward, nudging toward the yellow line. On the opposite side, the silhouettes align themselves in each window. They form rows of figures that mirror the benches on the platform. A single space remains empty among them. Seat near the middle, perfectly clean, glowing faintly as if lit from within. The platform clock shifts again, its frozen hands lurching. Both slam downward in a jolt, pointing to the empty space where 03 Joe 3 burned earlier. A sound emerges at last, not metallic but organic, a low intake of breath, filling every tunnel. Air sucked away until her ears pop. The lights overhead dim and return in sequence, chasing the length of the train like a wave. Karen's mop handle creaks as her grip tightens. Her father's old words return unbidden. Warnings never written, rules spoken in shifts when the tunnels still carried passengers. Never meet the train when the station is closed. She hadn't believed them until now. The doors slide open all at once. A perfect synchronized hiss. Warm air gushes from the cars, perfumed, heavy, carrying echoes of voices from decades past. She squints into the glow, vision blurring, and sees her own reflection waiting inside, seated in that empty spot, staring calmly back. The reflection lifts one hand, beckoning her forward as the signboard blinks. Ultima chamada. The reflection inside the car does not vanish. It waits, patient, eyes steady, posture identical to hers, one hand raised in its silent summons. Karen's breath fogs in the cold air, but the glass separating her from that other self does not mist. It shines with a sterile glow, polished, untouched, immune to decay. The doors remain open, the platform thick with stillness. Confetti scatters across the tracks in a breeze that has no source, spiraling upward as if drawn toward the car. Her cart rattles again, wheels turning slightly against the grain of the tile, straining toward the yellow line. She braces against it, but the pull feels alive, like a current threading through steel. Above, the clock trembles. Its cracked face bulges outward once, hands vibrating like tuning forks. Then both collapse inward, shattering silently, glass shards drifting to the floor without sound. They melt into nothing before touching tile, dissolving into faint plumes of powder that sting her throat. The silhouettes in the car shift closer, pressed against the windows, dozens of them. Their heads tilt in identical rhythm, studying her. Some outlines wear hats from another era. Some clutch handbags or briefcases that no longer exist outside of museums. Their bodies do not sway with the train's stillness. They sway together with hers, like echoes delayed by a fraction of a second. Karen forces her gaze to the floor, but there too, the message persists. Moisture creeps up through the tile grout, spelling words in the faint shimmer of condensation. Embarque confirmado. She retreats a step, back scraping the tiled wall, yet her own shadow stretches long toward the waiting car, falling into the aisle like it already boarded. The station exhales again. Lights dim in sequence, but instead of chasing the train, they collapse inward, leaving only the open doors in full brightness. The reflection inside leans forward, smile spreading faint and thin, teeth too many for the space they occupy. The signboard above the tunnel sputters, bulbs cracking one by one until only 3 remain, pulsing together. Entrar. The platform trembles beneath her boots as the train shifts closer without moving, its weight bending the tile under her feet. The platform heaves once, as though the weight of the silent train presses down from every direction at once. Karen steadies herself against the cart, but the handle is slick with condensation that was never there before. The mop bucket tilts, water lapping over the rim in heavy waves, though no motion stirs it. Each spill crawls across the tile, not spreading randomly but flowing in straight lines towards the open car. Her reflection waits inside, seated still, a pale duplicate framed in fluorescent glow. The silhouettes around it hold their heads bowed, as if in reverence. The perfume in the air is suffocating now, heavy with dust, old roses, and the metallic aftertaste of rusted iron. She coughs once, but no sound escapes her throat, only a thin plume of vapor that drifts into the train and does not return. The tiles along the edge of the platform begin to rearrange. Letters appear in the gaps, carved by moisture and shadow. Passaggero identificado. The words repeat down the length of the platform until every stone declares her place. Karen digs her boots into the floor, but the ground itself seems to tilt, guiding her toward the yellow line. The cart slides first, wheels squealing, metal frame vanishing smoothly into the open car. The silhouettes lean back, making space for it, before returning to their forward press. She braces against the tiled wall, chest heaving. A sound rises through the tunnel, not machinery, not metal, but the roar of an invisible crowd inhaling together. Lights fail in bursts, plunging the far end of the platform into blackness. Only the train remains visible, glowing as if detached from the world. A vessel, more idea than object. Her shadow stretches across the floor again, longer, sharper, slipping past the line she refuses to cross. It rises into the car, settling beside her waiting double, which lifts its head in perfect unison with her breath. The signboard above the tunnel flashes one last message. Plataforma vazia. Karen's fingers claw the wall until tiles chip beneath her nails. The ground softens underfoot, losing solidity, her weight swallowed inch by inch as though the platform has become another track. The silhouettes inside lean forward, dozens of faces without detail, and the doors hiss with finality. When they close, the station falls silent, the clock hands forever fixed at 3:03, and the only thing left on the bench is her mop, dripping steadily into the dark. Night shift janitor horror in a water treatment plant begins when the sky reflects where it should not. The story begins when Anthony clocks in at the edge of the facility, his boots crunching gravel that smells faintly of chlorine and algae. The night air is still, broken only by the drone of pumps and the metallic sigh of pipes pushing millions of gallons beneath the ground. The plant sprawls outward in wide basins of dark water, each one rimmed with railings streaked white from decades of chemical vapor. Floodlights hum at the perimeter, their cones of yellow stretching into the mist. Yet even beneath the artificial glare, the open tanks mirror more than they should. Stars prick the surface with unnerving precision, constellations perfectly aligned despite the swirling breeze. Anthony works in silence, cart loaded with brushes, buckets, and rags. His father taught him the trade: steady, patient, never rush when machines can outlast men. Tonight the air tastes metallic, faint copper clinging to the tongue, and the chill cuts sharper than usual. He wrings his mop, water dripping into water, ripples dissolving without a sound. Inside the control room, gauges blink their steady green. Pressure normal, flow normal, temperature normal. The sameness feels rehearsed, as though the dials play a script, rather than measure reality. He adjusts his gloves, fingertips itching with static from the panel. Beyond the window, one basin glows faintly, not from lights, but from its own surface. He steps outside again, flashlight beam cutting across concrete. The glow intensifies. He leans over the railing, breath misting. The water lies flat as glass, windless, reflecting the night sky with unsettling clarity. Then a star not known to him flares bright in the reflection, though the true sky remains unchanged. It burns blue-white, mirrored only in the basin. Anthony rubs his eyes. The star multiplies, splitting into a constellation that draws itself line by line until it resembles a door outlined in fire. The reflected sky pulses once, light bending, and his own shape appears in it, standing not above but within the mirrored heavens, watching him with identical posture. The reflection lifts one hand to the glowing door as the surface ripples outward, like a breath held too long. The ripple spreads in concentric circles, breaking the perfection of the mirrored sky. Anthony steadies himself against the railing, the metal cold enough to sting his palms. The reflection does not vanish. It remains vivid, his own figure suspended among constellations that have no counterpart above. The glowing door widens, its outline bending like molten glass, spilling pale light across the basin. He forces himself to breathe evenly, to resume the rhythm of routine. Mop dragged across the catwalk, bucket wheels clattering softly. The habits of labor anchor him, though every motion feels heavier, as though gravity tilts toward the water. The air grows damp, rich with the scent of ozone and minerals, more like storm air than chemical treatment. Behind him, the gauges in the control room flicker. Pressure stable, flow stable, temperature stable. Each green light burns too brightly, a steady insistence of normalcy that mocks what he sees. He wipes sweat from his brow, though the night is cold enough that frost gathers on the railing. The reflection shifts. His other self presses closer to the luminous door. Stars collapse inward, pulled into the shape, as though whole galaxies are compressed into its threshold. He watches as his double rests its palm flat against the light. The basin shudders. Water rises upward in a silent swell, reaching toward the sky while never spilling over. Droplets hang suspended in the air, sparkling like fragments of glass. Anthony stumbles back, boots slipping on damp concrete. The mop clatters against the catwalk, its wooden handle vibrating as if alive. From the water below, a low resonance swells, a note so deep it bypasses hearing and sinks straight into his chest cavity. The vibration rattles his teeth, makes his vision blur. The reflection tilts its head upward, a gaze no longer on him, but on something beyond. Anthony follows its stare. The real sky has shifted. Familiar constellations are gone, replaced by the same pattern burning in the basin. Every star above matches the impossible map below. The glowing door expands further, now tall enough to frame the reflection entirely. Its edges flicker, scattering fragments of light across the water. From within the outline, a silhouette steps forward, long and featureless, yet the surface of the basin ripples outward as though something massive presses to cross. The silhouette holds in the doorway of stars, featureless but immense, shoulders hunched, as if to pass through a space too narrow for its form. Anthony grips the railing harder, pulse hammering in his ears. The air thickens, and with every breath, he swallows a taste of iron, sharp and bitter, as though the night itself has curdled. The basin water rises in a dome, surface tension stretched beyond nature. Each suspended droplet glitters, constellations fractured into beads that orbit slowly around him. His flashlight beam scatters uselessly, swallowed in the glow, leaving only the luminous door and the shadow pressing against it. He backs away down the catwalk, boots slipping in moisture that was not there before. Beneath the grating, more basins shimmer in sympathy. Each surface shows the same impossible map, the same door, the same silhouette, leaning closer. The entire plant becomes a hall of mirrors, every tank an opening. From the control room, alarms should blare, gauges should redline. Yet when he glances through the fogged window, all indicators remain green. The system declares peace, while the world outside folds in on itself. A deep resonance builds, louder now, almost a chant, but wordless. The catwalk vibrates under his weight, bolts creaking as if they might shear loose. He clutches the mop for balance, handles slick in his gloves. The reflection of himself in the water below mirrors the action, but with a delay that widens second by second. Then the shadow moves. One elongated arm extends through the luminous door, stretching until it presses against the water's inner surface. The liquid bows outward, a handprint swelling up as if the basin were nothing but a membrane. The rail shakes under Anthony's palms. Droplets leap higher into the air, spinning around him in a slow spiral, catching light like fragments of shattered glass. His reflection does not help him now. It stands within the mirrored sky, motionless, watching with hollow patience. The shadow's hand pushes harder. Cracks of light splinter across the water, jagged like lightning frozen in place. The membrane bulges upward, splitting at its center, and a torrent of star-filled liquid begins to rise, aiming not to spill, but to engulf the catwalk where he stands. The swell climbs with terrifying grace, not spilling over the basin, but lifting whole, a vertical wall of water shot through with constellations. The catwalk quivers, as if weight is shifting beneath its bolts, every vibration crawling up Anthony's legs. The mop slips from his hands and clatters to the grating, wood ringing hollow before vanishing beneath a sudden sheet of rising liquid that obeys no law of gravity. He staggers back toward the control room, but each step drags as if the air itself resists him. Droplets spiral around his shoulders, orbiting like patient satellites, faintly luminous. His reflection in the water does not mimic his retreat. It stays fixed at the basin's center, palm against the glowing door, mouth moving in shapes he cannot hear. The gauges inside the control room remain a chorus of lies. Pressure stable, flow stable, temperature stable. Their green lights blink with mechanical serenity, indifferent to the cosmic rupture outside. Frost creeps across the control room glass, crystallizing into star patterns that match the sky above. The shadow presses fully through. It emerges not with flesh or form, but as a frame of darkness filled with stars, limbs bending too many times, torso stretching into angles his eyes cannot parse. Its presence forces the night air heavier, a gravity that bends his spine and steals breath from his lungs. Anthony grips the railing one last time. Metal bites into his gloves, his body trembling with effort, but the water is rising around him now, a dome folding inward to close. The spiral of droplets tightens, light strobes between them, and the constellations above flicker to match. He realizes then that the sky is no longer the sky. It is only another basin, another surface, and he stands between mirrors that will soon touch. The final resonance builds, deep enough to silence thought. His chest convulses against it, breath shredded, eyes drawn to the luminous door still widening in the basin. The reflection of himself steps through it, calmly, vanishing into a horizon of burning stars. Anthony's body folds with the catwalk as the water surges upward without splash, swallowing steel and skin alike. When the surface calms, the gauges blink green once more, and the sky above shows no trace of him. Only the same constellations reflected perfectly in every tank. And with that, their stories came to an end, leaving only one question to haunt you. What would you do if, during the night shift, you realized it's not you watching the empty place, but the empty place watching you? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read all of them. See you in the next one.